What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the E! Network, as today we're talking Season 5, Episode 4 of Total Bellas, entitled Playing Favorites. So to kick off the episode, we see Nikki Bella doing makeup with Birdie Joe, which ends up kind of setting the stage, so to speak, for what this episode is all about in regards to the strained relationship between Nikki and JJ believing that Nikki favors Birdie, Brie's daughter, Birdie Joe, and kind of lends more attention to Birdie Joe than to JJ and Lauren's own kids, Vivian and their other sister, whose name escapes me at the moment. But anyway, another story on this episode is that Kathy, Mama Bella, wants to take a family picture without Artem in it. And her logic is, the last time they took a family photo with Brie's family and Brian's family in the same picture, it included Nikki's ex, John Cena. Now, they don't say John Cena by name, of course, nor do they need to, but they simply say Nikki's ex. And I can understand what, the perspective they're coming from here, where they're coming from in this situation, where they don't want another picture that involves another ex that won't be in the family long term. She wants it to be a timeless picture that she won't ever have to take down. It seems a little mean, and we'll get to that later, but I can also see where she's coming from in that respect. She also feels that way because Nikki and Artem have only really been dating a year, and when Cena was in those pictures, he had been dating Nikki for a few years by that point, and he was in the pictures. So why would Kathy want to include Artem if he'd only been in the picture, in the picture, so to speak, not the literal picture in this sense, but he's only been around for about a year now, Meanwhile, JJ says how he kind of talks about how he has a different relationship with Brie as opposed to Nikki. They're not all too close. JJ's a lot closer with Brie than he is with Nikki because Nikki's never really around. It's also during this point, Nikki's not around when he says this, but JJ and Lauren both, his wife Lauren and JJ both believe that Nikki favors Birdie Joe more than his own kids, Vivian and her sister. Kathy thinks that's because the Bellas are just so close and they do everything together, wrestling, all their, modeling lines and everything else, the business, side of things. Where Brie and Nikki are so close, of course, Nikki's going to be a lot closer to Birdie Joe because Birdie Joe was on the road with them when they were wrestling, whereas JJ's kids weren't. So that's probably why. But she also doesn't want the family to grow apart. Brie thinks that, hey, listen, she doesn't agree with JJ, and she kind of takes Nikki's side in this situation. Brie says, listen, go talk to Nikki about it if you feel that way and it really bothers you. And JJ simply says that he was making a joke. Obviously, it's something that bothers him. Brie says, go take it up with Nikki and settle it that way. Of course, he doesn't until much later on, until after it blows up in everyone's faces. JJ and Brie go to yoga. It's then when Brie gets a call from the local police department from where she lives about how her car, which had been stolen soon before this, I don't know if it had been a few weeks, days, months, I'm not sure. But her car that was stolen right out of her driveway, which is very scary. It's not like she left it in a parking lot or she left it unlocked or whatever. It was in her fucking driveway. That's crazy. And I forget where they live. I think they're still in Phoenix at this point. And this was after their house was broken into a few years ago. Like 4 or 5 years ago, their house was broken into. And now this happens, So she finds out that the car was found. But she also doesn't really want to know what happened with the car. And I would be the same way. I would be like, I don't even really want the car at this point. I'm kind of scared to find out what they did with the car. Anyway, so Kathy, coming at a commercial break, asks Nikki if it's okay if Artem isn't in the picture. And she doesn't really blow up. She's a little upset about the whole thing. But at the same time, she's like, she kind of gets it, but she's also a little hurt by it. She feels more that Artem's going to be hurt. How his feelings going to be affected more so than her own, So Kathy questions whether, Nikki is indeed taking her relationship with Artem seriously enough to realize, listen, he may not be around for a while. This may be a spur-of-the-moment thing where he's only around for a few years. She was dating John Cena before they broke up for, 6, 7, not even, probably about 5 years. I think they started dating in 2012, 2013. So they had probably been dating about 5, 6 years when the relationship was called off. Anyway, so Kathy, what she wants to do, instead of having Artem in the picture, she's going to invite him to do the picture with them, but they're going to take a few pictures before he gets there. So being really, really sneaky about it. And usually Kathy is the voice of reason on the show. Not in this situation. I thought that was pretty shitty. So after that, Bree goes to the car to see what was in the car when it was stolen and whatever. She wishes Daniel Bryan, her husband Bryan Danielson, was there with him, but he's on the road, so he can't make it. And she finds bullets in the car. Finds it very unsettling that these people, that there's like a whole bunch of trash in her car. And she tells Nikki that the car was trashed, which it is. I don't know if it's unusable, but, she says that it's trashed and there were bullets in there. There were bullet casings, whatever, which is pretty crazy. I don't know if there's any bullet holes in the car itself. I don't think so, because if there were, I believe they would have probably been shown, I would have to assume. But the actual bullet casings are what's in the car in the back of it. So she finds it very unsettling that these type of people were in her fucking driveway stealing her car. And she's really nervous about the whole thing. She's very anxious that it might happen again after getting her house broken into a few years ago. Now this happening, she's very anxious about the whole thing. So the Bellas, to kind of take their mind off of everything, hold a Downton Abbey dress party. I always thought for the longest time until someone I know started watching the show, it was Downtown Abbey. It's not. It's spelled Downton Abbey. Anyway, so they hold this dress-up party with the whole family. This is where Bree tells Nikki about what JJ and Lauren said about her, about how they feel that Nikki favors Birdie Joe over Vivian and their own daughters, pretty much. Nikki thought the party would be a good way for her family to kind of get to know Artem, and he teaches them some new dance moves, all this other cool stuff. But now she feels really slighted to find out that this is how JJ and Lauren feel about her. And she believes it might be more about than just Birdie Joe and her JJ's own daughters, but more so about JJ having his own chip on his own shoulder because of how they're the twins, they get all the attention, and being a sibling to twins must be difficult. And not that I would know, I don't have twins for siblings, but they're just assuming that it might be difficult for him. They kind of see it from his point of view. And he never says that later on. They just kind of simply assume that. And Artem says the same thing when he's, asked his opinion on the situation. But they might feel that it might be way more about Birdie Joe and the whole daughters thing than it is about, JJ having an issue with the twins of his own. So Bree talks to the camera about how it's difficult to be a parent when Brian is around, when he's on the road. She has to take care of Birdie Joe all by herself for like the last 6 months, and it's been really tough for her. And she feels that she's in a tough place between the Brian situation, between what happened on episode 1, when she was like, oh, I don't want another kid. And he said that he did, and that whole thing happened, and really hasn't been referenced since until now. And also being alone, being home alone with her daughter and not knowing who's around the house and that whole thing. So she's actually kind of happy that Nikki and Artem are staying a little longer, because I think Nikki's house is still being done by this point. It's still being, built and whatever. So Nikki and Artem are staying with her in the meantime, and she actually enjoys that, so she has that extra safety and she has that peace of mind knowing that there's other people in the house. So JJ and Lauren, this whole thing happens. This whole conversation about Nikki not wanting to show up and all this other stuff starts because JJ and Lauren are holding a barbecue at their house. They're holding a barbecue, and they don't think Nikki's going to show up. Sure enough, after what Bree tells Nikki about how JJ and Lauren feel about, Nikki favoring Birdie Joe over JJ and Lauren's own daughters, Nikki doesn't show up. So pretty much what Bree feels is that it validates everything JJ said earlier. So Nikki and Artem are like, oh, we're busy, when they actually go out to eat. I mean, Artem doesn't say that. Nikki says that. She texts JJ to let him know that she's not going because, she's busy, doesn't want to make it. And everyone's pissed that she's not there. And Kathy has her own 2 cents on the situation. It's just one fucking giant mess. And Bree calls Nikki and says, listen, that's when Nikki says, I don't want to be there. And she explains to Bree, like, why would I want to be there after, how they said that they feel about me, and then Kathy not wanting Artem in the picture? Why would I want to be there right now? So JJ gets the text from Nikki, and then again, he kind of blows up about it at this barbecue. And Bree again feels that it validates everything that he was saying about Nikki earlier on in the episode. Meanwhile, Nikki and Artem are having a grand old time, throwing cake on each other, having just this great time eating out and hanging out and whatever. Meanwhile, Daniel Bryan comes back home. Brie feels a lot safer now. And while he's home for a full 5 days, which I guess is rare considering he's always on the road and he has very few days off. I don't know how he managed to get 5 days off, but he did. So while he's home, he manages to go over with Brie about what safety precautions Brie wants to put in place at the house, whether that be a gate, whether that be floodlights. He feels the gates are a little too much. But he does think floodlights are probably for the best in this type of situation. So Brie also reveals that she changed her locks, among other things, after the whole car situation because she didn't feel safe in her own home anymore. To end the episode, we see the entire family, except for Artem, of course. We have John Laurinaitis, Kathy, Brie, Nikki, Lauren, Daniel Bryan, Vivian and her sister, Birdie Joe, even John Laurinaitis' daughter, who we were introduced to on the last season of Total Bellas, who I completely forgot about, by the way. She's like 18, 19 years old. She played a pretty big part on the show in the latter half, I believe, of the last season, but we don't even hear from her here. So she's basically an afterthought, but I recognized her. I'm like, oh, who is that again? Then I realized that was John Laurinaitis' daughter from another marriage. Anyway, so they're trying to take the pictures, but everyone's freaking the fuck out because JJ and Lauren have to leave in a half an hour. Yet they have to walk 10 minutes to the place where Kathy wants to take this picture. Meanwhile, the Bella twins are late. Brie and Nikki are late with Brian and Birdie Joe. And it's about to rain. It's about to storm. So it's just this one giant storm, so to speak. Perfect segue there. Into this complete catastrophe of what's about to happen here. So it's a long hike and everyone's complaining and Kathy goes, oh, I'm wearing heels, so if anyone's going to complain, it's me. So everyone, and she's like telling everyone that they're bitching even in front of the kids, which is kind of crazy. So it starts raining, and this is when everything goes to shit. Because JJ bugs Nikki about Birdie. He goes, oh, of course he would want to be next to Birdie Joe in the picture. And that's when Nikki goes off and they just start fucking going off on each other. And the whole family starts arguing and and even Kathy says, I don't care about Artem's feelings. I don't care about hurting Artem's feelings. That's how I felt initially. I don't feel that way now. I just want to get this picture done. And they can't, and it looks like a complete disaster. They get no nice pictures in before it starts raining, before Brie and JJ start arguing with each other. And then Kathy gets all mean about the whole Artem situation, even though he did absolutely nothing wrong. JJ tells Nikki that she's never there and that Vivian won't even remember her name when she gets older because she's just this terrible aunt. The whole thing just gets completely out of control. Artem arrives in the midst of all of this. He hugs Nikki, and then JJ's like, listen, if anyone can change her, it's you. And, that's when he reveals that Kathy didn't want him there in the first place, that they were going to take pictures without Artem there. And then he was going to be in the pictures later on. He actually tells Artem what actually happened. I'm sure he probably already knew. Nikki, I'm sure, already told Artem. At the risk of hurting his feelings. The whole thing is just because he just no-sells the entire thing, as any normal person probably should in this type of situation. So it's a complete fucking catastrophe. A week later, Kathy joins Nikki and Artem on this Malibu safari to make it up to Artem and really explain her actions, which she does. She explains to Artem that they had family pictures years ago. They had family pictures done years ago. And this whole thing was for her birthday, by the way, and that's why she wanted to do this whole family picture thing. You're probably asking, why not take pictures with Artem and then they could take pictures without the guy if they're that, whatever. I guess it was more a matter of timing than anything else. And they're not even engaged at this point. So that's why she doesn't want him in the pictures. And also that they had pictures before with Nikki's ex, her ex, and maybe somebody else. They said 2 exes. So John Cena, I'm not sure who the other ex would have been. Maybe JJ's ex, or I don't think Brie ever married anyone. Or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the other ex they're talking about here. But he's completely understanding of the situation. And, he doesn't flip out about it. He kind of jokes about it, if anything, that they take a picture of all 3 of them. And he's like, oh, that was a nice picture. I'm glad I was included in that one. But he says in a way where he's joking and he doesn't really mind and whatever. So they work things out. They patch things up. To end the episode, Nikki, they meet up. The whole family meets up. Nikki kind of feels uncomfortable about seeing JJ and Lauren again. And Nikki doesn't really talk to Lauren, nor does she really need to. It's really between JJ and Nikki. So they sit down, they hash things out about how, Nikki should try to be there more. Nikki believes that it's more about JJ than it is Birdie Joe, and he kind of squashes that, and it's like, no, it's not. It's really about, it's about you and the fact that you're never here. So I'm glad he said that, because this really isn't about JJ and the chip that he has on his shoulder. Maybe a little bit, but it's more so about exactly what he brought up and the fact that he's had these harboring feelings, these, looming feelings for a while about the whole situation. And he, tells his side of the story. She's completely understanding. They make they make up and whatever, and it's this nice little note to end on for the episode. And, she even reveals that she wants to be in the girls' lives more, that being JJ and Lauren's daughters moving forward. So then they all make up, and that's the end of the episode. So that was Season 5, Episode 4 of Total Bellas. Check it out right now on the E! Network. A new episode coming next week as well, so check that out. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out my reviews of this show and every other show I review here on WWE Network and Chill, including, of course, Total Bellas, Total Divas, Dark Side of the Ring right now on Vice, which is an even a way better show than this. So if you enjoy the drama part of this, then that's cool, as I do. But if you're more of a wrestling fan, checking out for more, you're looking for more wrestling reviews here on Network and Chill and here on the channel, check out my reviews of Dark Side of the Ring. The next one should be up very, very soon right here on the channel. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Check out the description box down below for more Network and Chill as well as more Total Bellas reviews. And right here on the channel tomorrow, you can check out my full SmackDown audio review from tonight's episode. So until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.